I welcome you. Write down where you are listening to us from. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy your listening experience. "She's buried under that tree," my grandfather whispered, pointing out the window to the front lawn. Oh boy, I thought, here we go again. For 90 years old, Grandpa was physically capable. He could move, do basic chores, and eke out a decent existence. His primary weakness was his mind. "Who's buried there?" I asked, humoring his senility as I adjusted the angle on his lift chair. "The girl with white hair and green skin." Green skin? I wondered. That's new. I fixed Grandpa's chair to the recline position and made my way to the kitchen. "I'm going to make us some sandwiches." "All right, sweetie." I left him there in front of the TV. This weekend was my monthly visit. My siblings and I switched weekends to make sure Grandpa wasn't alone. The location was inconvenient because he lived in the ass crack of nowhere. It was a good 2 hours to the nearest town. If you needed something other than general store items, you'd be driving for a while. After I finished the sandwiches, I slid one on a plate and placed it in Grandpa's lap. "Thanks, honey," he said, and started chewing with yellow teeth. I sat down on the sofa, cracked open a murder mystery book. A golf tournament was playing on TV. I hated golf, but that was the only thing he liked, so I occasionally glanced out the window at the beautiful vista to keep myself from boredom. Grandpa's property was strange in that it was high up in the mountains, appropriate for farming, but his specific land hadn't been built for that. He lived in a mobile home just beneath a hill. There were trees decorating the terrain, but the only one on his quarter-acre lawn was a pine my father had brought up years ago as a sapling. It was well over 12 feet now. "She's buried there," he mumbled, devouring a slice of ham on bread. Why does he keep saying that? I focused my gaze on the tree in the lawn. What an odd thing to hallucinate. 2 hours later, I was interrupted by a call from my brother, Stu. "Hey, Grace," he said, his voice as cheerful as ever. "How's Gramps?" "Coping," I said. Grandpa had fallen asleep in his chair, a half-eaten sandwich in his lap. "He's resting after a light lunch." "Good, he needs that." I returned to the couch, saved the spot in my murder mystery. My eyes fell on the lonely pine outside. "Stu, can I ask you something?" "Sure, sis." "Has Grandpa mentioned anything about a green girl buried under a tree?" Stu fell silent. "Stu?" "Give me a second." "You there?" "Yeah, just a minute." A heavy sigh. "When did he start mentioning it?" "This morning." "Don't let him talk about it." "Why not?" "Because he gets all worked up. When Jess and I were there last month, we found him digging a hole under the tree at 2 in the morning. He thinks someone lives down there." "He belongs in a care home." I turned towards Grandpa, noted his frail shoulders, the muscles that had carried bales of hay and iron tools for years. Now his body was fading. "Grace, I'm still here. Make sure he doesn't talk about it." It was 5:15 when I cleared the plates from the dining table. "Thanks for cooking, sweetheart." "Of course, Grandpa. Need help getting to bed?" "No." He sighed, seemingly deep in thought. He pushed himself out of his seat, waddled down the hall. It took him so long to reach the other end of the trailer. "Grace?" He stopped at this bedroom door. "Yes?" "You do believe me about the girl under the tree?" "Yes, Grandpa." "Good. If anything happens, stay by my side. I'll protect you." "Huh?" With that, Grandpa cracked open his bedroom door and slipped inside. Thwack! My eyes shot open. It was dark, maybe 1 in the morning. Thwack! A hard, metallic noise thundered in my ears. What was that? Thwack! I stumbled out of bed, disoriented, face aching with exhaustion. I ripped open the blinds. A man was swinging a tool at the foot of the pine tree. Grandpa? I raced to his room. The bed was empty. Thwack! The metallic clangs grew louder. What's happening? I ran to the sofa, grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and stumbled outside. The moon was barely up. Cold air bit my skin as I pulled my shirt close, covering my body. Just ahead, Grandpa was hunched at the 12-foot pine, swinging a pickaxe. I was so stunned to see him lifting the massive tool. "Grandpa, what are you—" "She's coming, Grace. I have to set her free. Grandpa, it's 3 in the morning. I have to get her out." I grabbed Grandpa's wrist, but he shoved me back. I landed on my posterior, my flashlight's beam illuminating his face, wide with terror. "Don't stop me, Grace. If I don't let her out, she'll take you too." Without another word, he slammed his tool into the earth. The next morning, Grandpa and I sat at the table chewing bacon and eggs. Neither of us had slept. "Grandpa?" He looked at me with weariness in his eyes. "What happened last night?" He let out a deep sigh, pulled out a worn shoebox from a cabinet. "See this?" He brought out a stack of black and white photos. "This is your grandmother, Belle, and me a few years after we were married. And here," he tapped the face of an adorable boy, "is your father." In the background of the picture, I noticed a young girl, maybe 4 years old, perched on a fence, watching everyone with a miserable gaze. "Who's that?" "The green girl. She's the one who's buried under that tree. She took your father and grandmother. Now she's coming for me." "Why?" "Because she's death." "Death?" Boom! The front door lurched with sudden impact. Grandpa and I swerved our gazes, deep in fear and concentration.
Didn't you think it was odd how Grandma died so young? And your father? Boom. This girl lived in the woods. She was there for each family member who passed on. Boom. My uncle, aunt. When I figured it out, I found her in the woods, made sure she never came after us again. You killed a child? She's no child, Grace. She's evil, and she's coming for me. Boom. I ran to the couch, peered out the window to see a hunched figure wearing old pioneer clothes. They were bashing their fists against the door. Someone's out there. It's all right, Grace. She only wants me. The slamming grew more intense. I retraced my steps to the table. Why is she harassing our family? I don't know, Grace, but it's been like that ever since I was a boy. Whatever you do, don't make eye contact with her. Boom. The front door caved in under the pressure. I closed my eyes, then reopened them. A strange figure stood in the doorframe. About 4 feet tall, dressed in worn rags. Her skin was as green as a pine tree's leaves. Long white hair flowed down her back. She's here. The green girl shuffled toward us across the carpet. I watched in suspense, so scared I could barely breathe. My eyes searched for a weapon and found a letter opener. I reached for it. "Stop, Grace. This has to happen." I gawked in horror as the green girl lurched up to Grandpa, let out a blood-chilling gasp. "Hee-ah." The sound of her breath stung my ears. Grandpa commanded, "Only me. That's the deal." The green girl grabbed his face with bone-thin hands and held her mouth over his. A sickening sound of rushing wind accompanied her widening mouth. Grandpa gave a frightened gasp, then collapsed. "Grandpa!" The green girl let out a sickening groan, limped back to the door. "Wait!" The creature looked at me. "Why are you doing this?" The green girl pointed at the clock hanging above the dining table, then pointed at herself, then me. For the next few seconds, I was too shocked to move. With a final groan, the green girl limped out the front door and was gone. It's been 2 days. I called the sheriff. They investigated everything. I've been asked so many questions. My siblings think I'm crazy. Stu's the only one who believes me. Why? He says that one night, while he was at Grandpa's, he heard a woman speaking in one of the rooms. It reminded him of a soothing voice he had once heard as a young boy. A voice that told him the exact date he would die. And that date wasn't far off.